Have you ever wondered what could happen on a seemingly ordinary food delivery run? I'm here to tell you, things aren't always as they seem. My name is John, and for the past several years, I've been working the graveyard shift, delivering food to hungry folks in the dead of night. You meet all sorts of people in this line of work. But there's one delivery, one night, that still sends shivers down my spine. It was a regular order, nothing out of the ordinary. Just another address on my GPS. But this delivery was different, it was unsettling. It's strange how a routine job can turn into something so eerie, so quickly. I've had my share of late-night scares, but nothing compares to this particular night. It was a cold, dark night, and I had no idea what I was getting into. The order came in around midnight, for a house located on the outskirts of town. Now, this wasn't just any ordinary order. It was a large meal, enough to feed a family of 4, but for one person. A feast, really, with a bit of everything: pizza, wings, sushi, and even a slice of chocolate cake for dessert. All this for a single diner. The location, too, was intriguing. Far from the hustle and bustle of city life, nestled in a secluded area where houses were few and far between. A place where the night was darker, and the silence more profound. It was odd, sure, but in the life of a food delivery driver, you get used to the unusual. So, I shrugged it off, attributing it to perhaps a night owl with a huge appetite or a party of one celebrating something special. Brushing aside my initial reservations, I hopped in my car, ready to make the delivery. The drive was unusually quiet and the road was empty. The stillness of the night was only broken by the low hum of my car engine and the occasional rustle of the food delivery bags in the back seat. The houses, usually abuzz with life, were now just silent sentinels obscured by the thick fog that had rolled in. The streetlights, usually guiding my way, were now just faint glows in the foggy night, their light barely reaching my car. The road twisted and turned, leading me deeper into the unknown. Not a single soul was in sight. No other cars, no pedestrians, not even the occasional stray animal that I usually saw. The only sound accompanying me was the GPS voice, its tone monotonous and robotic, echoing in the silence of the car. As I drove further, the city's familiar sights gave way to a more rural landscape. The houses grew fewer and farther between. The streetlights were now merely sporadic, their weak light barely penetrating the thick fog. The trees on either side of the road loomed large, their branches swaying eerily in the wind. The fog seemed to grow thicker with each passing mile, swallowing up the road behind me. A chill ran down my spine, a sense of uneasiness creeping over me. It wasn't just the eerie silence or the cold foggy night. There was something else, something I couldn't quite put my finger on. It was as if I was driving into a different world, a world suspended in time and space, where the usual rules didn't apply. The GPS voice broke the silence, announcing that I was nearing my destination. The house, according to the GPS, was just around the bend. But as I took the turn, my headlights cutting through the thick fog, the feeling of dread only intensified. It was as if the fog was a curtain, and I was about to step onto a stage where I wasn't sure what role I was supposed to play. As I pulled up to the house, I couldn't shake off the feeling of dread. The house was old, decrepit, and seemingly abandoned. It stood like a monolith, a relic of a forgotten era, untouched by modernity. Its peeling paint whispered tales of years of neglect, and the sagging roof bore the weight of countless seasons. The windows, once clear and inviting, were now clouded with grime, their sills adorned with cobwebs. The once vibrant garden was now a jungle of overgrown weeds, untamed and wild, a testament to nature reclaiming its own. The house was located at the farthest corner of the town, isolated from the rest of civilization. It was as if the world had forgotten about its existence, leaving it to its own eerie solitude. The only thing that connected this forsaken place to the rest of the world was a worn-out path, overgrown with weeds and barely visible. The wind whistled through the skeletal trees surrounding the property, their barren branches casting long, chilling shadows on the house. The moon, full and bright, painted the landscape in a ghostly pallor, its light barely penetrating the dense foliage. The silence was deafening, interrupted only by the occasional hoot of an owl or the rustling of leaves in the wind. The only sign of life, if one could call it that, was the flickering porch light. It struggled against the encroaching darkness, casting an eerie glow on the dilapidated porch. It flickered intermittently, as if gasping for breath, creating a macabre dance of shadows that played on the cracked walls of the house. The sight of the house and its surroundings was enough to send shivers down anyone's spine. But there I was, standing at the edge of the property, a food delivery bag in my hand, staring at this haunting spectacle. I could feel the hair on the back of my neck standing up, a cold chill running down my spine. But I had a job to do. Taking a deep breath, I steeled myself and started walking towards the house, each step echoing in the eerie silence. I was about to discover that things were about to get even stranger. As I approached the front door, an eerie silence filled the air. The kind of silence that isn't just the absence of sound, but feels like it's swallowing up the normal hum of life. A silence that feels like it's watching you, waiting for you. With a sense of trepidation, I rapped my knuckles against the door. The sound echoed, strangely loud in the stillness. I waited, listening. From somewhere deep within the house, a sound emerged, a low, indistinct noise, like something heavy being dragged across a wooden floor. It was then followed by a scuffling, like the rustling of dry leaves in autumn. My heart pounded in my chest like a trapped bird, but I stood my ground, waiting. Eventually, the door creaked open, revealing an old man. He was gaunt and pallid, with eyes that reminded me of a fish's, glassy and emotionless. His skin, thin and translucent, clung to his bones like wet paper. He didn't speak, didn't even seem to acknowledge my presence. He just stared at me with those lifeless eyes, and for a moment, I was sure he could see right through me. In his trembling hand, he held out a crumpled wad of bills. The money for the food. I reached out, my own hand shaking slightly, and took the cash. His hand was cold, so cold it felt like it could draw the warmth out of anything it touched. And then, just as I was about to turn and leave, he grabbed my arm. His grip was surprisingly strong, his fingers digging into my flesh like claws. He leaned in close, so close I could smell the stale, musty odor that clung to him. He opened his mouth, his breath foul and rank, and whispered, "Beware of the shadows." As I turned to leave, he grabbed my arm and whispered, "Beware of the shadows." The warning echoed in my mind, a chilling reminder of the encounter I'd just had. I couldn't shake off the feeling of his cold, clammy grip, or the lifeless look in his eyes. But most of all, I couldn't shake off the dread that his words had instilled in me. Beware of the shadows. I pulled away from his grasp and ran back to my car. Panic was my fuel, adrenaline my guide. Each heartbeat was a deafening drum in my chest, reminding me that this wasn't just another late-night food delivery. The night was as black as ink, but fear made me nimble. I fumbled for my car keys, the icy chill of dread seeping into my bones as I heard the creak of the front door opening behind me. I knew he was watching. His presence was like a monstrous shadow, looming over me, and the feeling of his eyes boring into my back was more terrifying than any ghost story. I managed to unlock the car, throwing myself inside and slamming the door shut in one swift, desperate movement. My breaths came in ragged gasps as I fumbled to start the engine. A glance in the rearview mirror confirmed my worst fears. There he was, standing in the doorway, a silhouette against the dim light of the house, a chilling sight that would haunt my dreams for countless nights to come. His gaze followed me, cold and unwavering, as I put the car into gear and hit the gas. The tires screeched, and the house became a distant, fading nightmare in my rearview mirror. I drove off, with the man's warning echoing in my mind. The rest of the night passed in a blur. I quit the job the very next day. The chilling encounter left an indelible mark, a specter that still haunts my dreams. The eerie house, the menacing figure, the cold fear, they all merged into a nightmarish tableau that lingers. I became a changed man, more cautious, more guarded. I traded the thrill of the night for the safety of the day. To this day, I can still hear the man's warning, "Beware of the shadows." Thank you again for joining us for another video. If you liked the video, please like, subscribe and comment down below and let us know what you would like to hear in the near future. See you all again soon.